Lenny Pierce slept until noon, finally dragging himself out of bed and shuffling his slippers across the floor to his desk. He grabbed a half-eaten bag of crackers from the night before, washing the dry crumbs down with lukewarm tap water as he unlocked his phone and swiped open the Inkstream author dashboard. He intended to head straight for the royalty payout page, but the 99+ notification badge on his comment section popped up first. He tapped it open, and the vitriol practically oozed through the screen. What kind of garbage is this author writing? The male lead doesn't act like a man at all. Is this a gender swap story disguised as drama? The author needs a reality check. This is trash. Lenny swallowed the cracker mash in his mouth and let out a hearty, cynical laugh. Bunch of idiots. Go ahead and hate. The more you rage, the more the algorithm pushes my book. Traffic is traffic, and traffic means money. Ha ha. He skipped past the comment section and clicked on the back-end analytics. Seeing the numbers on the payout page, he felt his mood soar. This pivot was the right move. Ever since he switched to writing rage-bait fiction, his traffic had stabilized. Especially recently, joining the beta of male humiliation trend, his engagement had skyrocketed. He could churn out a viral hit every few days. Lately, he'd been using AI to assist the process. He just had to feed in a rough plot outline, and in minutes, a steaming hot pile of melodramatic short fiction was ready. No more hunching over the keyboard, agonizing over word choice. It saved time and effort, and his output had exploded. He remembered when his numbers were in the toilet, and a veteran author had patted his shoulder, offering the golden advice. Write emotional triggers. Extreme conflict, right in their faces. Hate comments or engagement. Engagement is cash. You want to go viral? Join my network. The platform will boost us, and I guarantee you'll have a hit. Only a fool would say no to money. He wanted to smoke a cigarette to celebrate, but shook the pack and found it empty. He hurriedly shuffled his slippers downstairs to the bodega across the street. Lenny was just about to cross the narrow alleyway below his apartment building when a blinding light flashed from his periphery. He turned his head and saw a massive moving truck, one that looked like it belonged on a highway, not a city street, barreling toward him. It seemed to defy physics, wedging itself into the 6-foot-wide alley, charging straight at him. He was scared out of his wits. He tried to dodge, but his legs felt like they were filled with concrete. Crash! A deafening bang, and the world spun. In the split second that pain exploded through him, only one thought crossed his mind. Holy crap, how did a semi-truck fit in this alley? Lenny was choked awake by the smell of cigars mixed with expensive perfume. He opened his eyes groggily, blinded by a dazzling crystal chandelier. Beneath him was a ridiculously soft leather sofa, and a cup of steaming Blue Mountain coffee sat within reach. Lenny bolted upright and pinched himself hard. It hurt. Not a dream. He looked down at his perfectly tailored custom suit, then glanced out the window at the towering skyscrapers of the Manhattan skyline. His heart nearly jumped out of his throat. He had transmigrated, and straight into the role of a CEO. That truck really was the Ice Guy Express. It dealt him a winning hand right off the bat. From today on, he was a titan of industry. As for that pathetic web novelist life, let someone else deal with it. Every time he published a story, he got roasted by readers. Was he a masochist? Yours truly wasn't serving them anymore. Lenny caressed the arm of the sofa with glee, wondering if he should sign a multi-million-dollar contract just to flex, when a voice like shattered ice cut through the air from behind the executive desk. Julian Thorne, do you even have the face to wake up? He jerked his head up and saw a woman in a high-fashion power suit, arms crossed, staring at him coldly. The disgust in her eyes was palpable. Standing next to her was a young man with red-rimmed eyes. On his fair, delicate cheek was a bright red handprint. Lenny's smile froze. These two, why did they look so familiar? Before he could react, the woman slammed her hand on the desk, her voice shrill. Julian Thorne, you useless waste of space. All you know is jealousy. You have zero magnanimity. Noah just peeled a grape for me, and you dare to slap him? A buzzing sound exploded in Lenny's brain like a thunderclap. Wait, Julian Thorne? Wasn't that the pathetic doormat husband from the gender-reversed rage-bait novel he wrote with AI last night? The one who gets tortured physically and emotionally by his wife and her little puppy? Victoria Sterling. That was the character. Billionaire heiress, ruthless CEO, and Julian Thorne's wife in name only. And the crying boy with a broken, fragile vibe next to her? That was Noah Vance, the intern who used a White Lotus innocent persona to manipulate Victoria and play Julian like a fiddle. Alarm bells screamed in Lenny's mind. He stiffened his neck, ready to fire back. Bullshit. When did I slap anyone? The words reached his lips, but his throat felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. The sentence twisted in his mouth against his will. He watched in horror as his own voice came out trembling and tearful. No, I didn't. It wasn't like that. It was exactly the dialogue he had written. Lenny wanted to die. This was a plot restriction. It was the spineless dialogue he had typed himself. He roared internally. I am not Julian Thorne. I am Lenny Pierce. Let go of my mouth. But his body refused to listen. It even cooperated by making his eyes water, adopting the posture of someone who had been grievously wronged, but was too cowardly to fight back. Lenny felt like a marionette controlled by invisible strings, stiffly shuffling 2 steps toward Noah Vance. His mouth opened uncontrollably, his voice soft and trembling, thick with tears. Noah, I am sorry. I didn't mean it. Please don't be mad at me. That pathetic, wronged look was a perfect replica of the fragile male lead archetype he had designed. Lenny was cursing up a storm in his mind. Why the hell am I apologizing? It was clear this little manipulator was faking weakness to win Victoria's sympathy. It was the classic soap opera trope Lenny had written himself, and now he had to act it out. But his body ignored his mind completely, hanging his head in shame, shoulders trembling, looking like he was on the verge of collapse. Victoria stared at his insincere apology, her expression darkening. She raised her hand and slapped him across the face. Smack! The sound was crisp. Lenny was dazed by the sheer force of Victoria's slap. What the hell? This slap was a plot point he specifically added to heighten the conflict. He only realized now how much it actually hurt. After delivering the slap, Victoria's expression softened slightly, but her tone remained harsh. As long as you know you're wrong. If you dare scream at Noah again, watch how I deal with you. Noah immediately put on a mask of understanding, timidly tugging at the hem of Victoria's jacket, his voice soft and sugary. Ms. Sterling, please don't yell at Julian anymore. He must have just been confused for a moment. It sounded like he was mediating, but in reality, he was stomping on Lenny's face again. Lenny wanted to vanish. This was the classic White Lotus stokes the fire scene he had personally designed. Lenny clutched his burning cheek, tears falling uncontrollably. Not from sadness, but from pain. Half his face felt numb and electric, and he could taste copper in his mouth. He cursed himself 800 times. When he wrote this scene, to emphasize Victoria's dominance and Julian's uselessness, he specifically described the slap as crisp, loud, and heavy as a hammer. Now karma had arrived instantly. That slap nearly knocked his soul out of his body. What made him even more suffocated was that the setting was ridiculous. Because he wrote it as a gender-reverse dynamic. The male characters like Julian and Noah were designed to be physically frail, crying like pears bathed in rain, ready to collapse from a breeze. And Victoria, despite being a female CEO, her settings made her physically akin to a superhero, capable of crushing bricks with her bare hands and lifting Julian like a baby chick. Noah continued his fake pleading. Ms. Sterling, please don't be angry. Julian definitely knows he's wrong. Look, his face is all red. Lenny wanted to rip that little manipulator's mouth off. Red? It's swollen because she hit me. But his body was still on autopilot, playing out the weak script. He sobbed, his voice hitching. I won't dare do it again. Victoria huffed coldly, glancing at him with disgust. She turned and wrapped her arm around Noah's shoulders, her tone instantly becoming tender enough to drip water. All right, little Noah, ignore him. I'll take you to that new dessert place. Noah nodded obediently. Before leaving, he glanced back at Lenny, his eyes filled with provocation and triumph. That look stabbed into Lenny's heart like a needle. He watched their retreating backs, the frustration and rage in his chest nearly exploding. Rewrite the plot. He had to rewrite the plot. I'm the author. I am the creator of this world. Why should I be bullied by characters I wrote? Just you wait, Victoria. Just you wait, Noah. If I don't flip this trashy script upside down, my name isn't Lenny Pierce. Before Lenny could plot his revenge, the scene before him warped violently. The crystal chandelier and leather sofa dissolved. In the next second, he was standing by a private swimming pool at a luxury villa. Noah was soaking wet, his white dress shirt clinging to his skin, highlighting his frail frame. He was curled up in Victoria's arms, crying his heart out. His voice was thick with grievance. Ms. Sterling, please don't blame Julian. I fell in by myself. It has nothing to do with him. Lenny screamed internally. Holy crap, the falling into the water frame-up. Another trashy cliché I wrote with my own hands. It was obvious Noah had deliberately walked in front of him, slipped into the pool on purpose, and then played the victim to make Victoria feel sorry for him. Lenny was mentally screaming obscenities at this idiotic plot when Victoria's cold voice smashed into him. Hold him down in the pool. Let him sober up. Two bodyguards in black suits immediately stepped forward, seizing Lenny's arms. Lenny shuddered. Oh no. In the script he wrote, Julian Thorne was held underwater until he was half dead, only spared when Victoria's rage finally subsided. Icy fear gripped his heart. He struggled desperately, but only a pathetic, tearful plea escaped his lips. His body refused to obey his commands, and the bodyguards forced him toward the water. The cold pool water rushed into his nose instantly, burning like fire. Lenny flailed, but his limbs felt like wet noodles, completely devoid of strength. This was another setting he had written. Julian Thorne had zero physical strength, a purely delicate constitution. The suffocation intensified. His lungs felt like they were about to burst. Darkness encroached on his vision, his consciousness fading. Just as he thought he was going to die in a plot of his own making, Victoria finally waved her hand impatiently. Enough! Pull him up. Don't actually kill him. The bodyguards hauled him up by his collar like a dead dog. Lenny collapsed on the pool deck, coughing violently, retching up water mixed with tears and snot, looking as pathetic as a drowned rat. Noah leaned in, fake concern plastered all over his face. Julian, are you okay? It's all my fault. If only I hadn't fallen. Lenny was shaking with rage, but his body remained trapped in its frailty. He could only glare tremblingly at Noah, unable to even utter a curse. Victoria looked down at him from her high vantage point, frowning in disgust. Next time you try to pull something on Noah, I'll let you sink to the bottom of this pool for good. With that, she took off her blazer, wrapped it around Noah, and walked away. Lenny lay on the ground, watching them leave, a single thought consuming him. Change the plot. Change it now, or this trash script is going to kill me. Before his coughing even stopped, the world began to spin again. The humidity of the pool and the tiles vanished, replaced by a spiraling staircase carpeted in expensive wool inside the villa. Lenny hadn't even found his footing when he heard a delicate gasp behind him. He spun around just in time to see Noah clutching his ankle, looking tearfully up from the floor at the base of the stairs, eyes red as a rabbit's. Julian, why? Why did you push me? Lenny's pupils constricted. He was pulling his hair out internally. Another cliché I wrote. The staircase accusation scene. He knew this plot beat for beat. Noah deliberately waited at the stairs to provoke him, then threw himself down when Julian got close, claiming he was pushed. Sure enough, a second later, Victoria rushed over with the servants. Seeing the scene, her face turned pitch black. She sprinted to Noah, shielding him in her arms, looking at Lenny with eyes that wanted to devour him whole. Julian Thorne, aren't you done making scenes? Noah buried himself in her embrace, sobbing so hard his shoulders shook, his fingers lightly tugging Victoria's shirt. Ms. Sterling, please don't scold Julian. He surely didn't mean it. The words were gasoline on the fire. Victoria's rage peaked. She pointed a finger at Lenny and barked at the bodyguards. You like being jealous, right? Someone, drag him up there and throw him down. Noah needs justice today. Two bodyguards stepped up, grabbing Lenny's arms like he was a rag doll. Lenny was terrified out of his mind, screaming internally. When I wrote this part, I only said Julian got yelled at. I didn't write about him being thrown down the stairs. Why is the plot escalating? He struggled with everything he had, but his body remained powerless against the bodyguards. He was dragged to the top of the stairs. Cold terror seized his heart. He watched helplessly as a heavy boot kicked him in the lower back. His body tumbled uncontrollably down the steps. Thud, crack. Pain exploded as his bones hit the edges of the stairs. His vision blackened. It felt like every bone in his body had shattered by the time he landed heavily on the carpet of the first floor. He couldn't get up. Lenny lay there like a broken toy, paralyzed by agony. Inside, he was roaring, the flames of his anger nearly burning through his skull. Noah, you manipulative snake. Victoria, you blind tyrant. I will remember this. Just as the pain threatened to knock him out, a light bulb went off in his brain. Right, how could he forget? When he wrote this gender-reverse trash, the hook was the groveling arc. Abuse the husband now, chase him later. After Julian Thorne is tortured to the brink and loses all hope, he tricks Victoria into signing divorce papers. He leaves with nothing, turning his back on her forever. Once Julian is gone, Victoria slowly discovers Noah's true colors. She sees the evidence of the frame-ups and regrets it so much her guts turn green. Then, the high and mighty CO lowers herself, chasing Julian across the world, begging for reconciliation. crying for forgiveness. And Noah? Once his mask is ripped off, he's ruined. A miserable ending. Thinking of this, the pain in Lenny's body seemed to lessen. He gritted his teeth, sneering internally. Go ahead. Abuse me. Torture me all you want. When we hit that plot point, I will pay you back 10 times, 100 times over. I'll make you two wish you were dead. Lenny's vision blurred as he drifted into semi-consciousness. He assumed the scene would shift again soon, and he eagerly awaited the upcoming plot. As long as he survived until the divorce arc, he would turn the tables and watch Victoria and Noah beg. Just as he was happily calculating the satisfaction of the revenge arc, a man's voice echoed in his ear, mocking, playful, and sinister. Ah, you think you're getting to the reversal soon, don't you? You guessed wrong. Why would I be kind enough to let you enjoy yourself in your own work? Lenny froze, jolted awake from his stupor. The voice was unfamiliar. It wasn't any character he had written. He tried desperately to open his eyes, but his eyelids felt like lead. He screamed in his mind, Who? Who was speaking? The voice ignored Lenny's internal question, continuing with overflowing mockery. The next story world coming up is titled Echoes of a Shattered Dawn. Sound familiar? Lenny's heart constricted violently. That title, how could he not know it? That was the debut novel of his pivot to emotional fiction. It was the very story where he tortured the protagonist to death and got cursed out by readers, yet discovered the algorithm's secret code. That book started him on the path of abusing the main character for clicks. I recall this is your masterpiece of emotional angst, right? The voice dragged out the vowels, dripping with malice. This is where you started the trend of relentlessly torturing the protagonist to disgust the readers, isn't it? Lenny went cold, goosebumps erupting all over his skin. He shrieked internally, No, I'm not going there. The protagonist in that book gets abused so bad, even his own mother wouldn't recognize him. This time, the voice dropped to a whisper, laced with poisonous amusement, each word hammering against Lenny's eardrums. The one suffering the agony is you. The dizziness of teleportation hadn't even faded when Lenny slammed onto cold concrete pavement. He grimaced as he scrambled up, instinctively searching his memory for the plot of Echoes of a Shattered Dawn. Since it was his work, the details surfaced quickly. Caleb Reed had a childhood sweetheart named Elena Cross. In college, she was targeted by a junior in her club, Milo Jinx. Milo was experienced in manipulation and quickly made Elena fall for him. Caleb was reborn with memories of a past life. In that past life, he tried desperately to win Elena back, which inadvertently caused Milo to spiral into debauchery and die of a disease. Elena blamed Caleb for everything, married him for revenge, destroyed his family on their wedding night, gave his fortune to Milo's gambling-addicted father, and then killed herself to atone. Reborn, Caleb didn't dare touch that toxic mess again. He just wanted to stay away. He saw Elena and Milo together and decisively walked away to let them be. But his departure caused Elena to panic. Only after being with Milo did she realize how good Caleb was. She chased after him, apologizing, begging. Milo, possessive to the extreme, was ignited with jealousy by Elena's behavior. But then, Caleb met Sarah Field, a woman who wanted to be a war correspondent. She crashed into his gray life like a beam of light. Caleb warned her about the dangers of the war zone, but Sarah was determined and left for overseas. As soon as Sarah left, Caleb lost his anchor. Milo saw his chance. He procured a syringe filled with a special virus and targeted the isolated Caleb. To make Caleb's despair complete, news arrived shortly after that Sarah had been captured by a local warlord while on assignment, her status unknown. For the rest of the story, Caleb struggled in the agony of the virus, rolling on the floor in pain every day, praying for Sarah's safe return. Just as Lenny recalled this point, a chilling laugh echoed behind him. He froze and whipped his head around. Standing in the shadows of the street lamp was Milo Jinx. He was toying with a syringe that glinted coldly in the light, the smile on his lips twisted and grotesque. "Hello there, Caleb," Milo said softly. The words wrapped around Lenny's ears like a venomous snake, carrying a bone-deep chill. Lenny shook with terror, nearly biting his tongue. "You're kidding, right? We're starting directly from the second timeline, right at the infection scene." He realized it too late, cursing the mysterious voice in his heart. Lenny had spent time building up the plot, hooking readers with normal drama before unleashing the torture. But the entity that threw him here clearly knew his formula. It skipped the setup and dropped him right into the worst torture point. It had no intention of letting him off easy. Lenny wanted to turn and run, but his body was once again a puppet controlled by invisible strings. His feet were nailed to the ground, heavy as lead. He couldn't even lift a hand. He could only watch as Milo approached step by step, the needle glinting brighter and brighter. Milo's smile grew more distorted. He didn't stop, closing the distance in the blink of an eye. He raised his hand, the cold tip of the needle tracing lazily over Lenny's neck, marking his prey. Lenny's hair stood on end. A guttural sound of terror scraped his throat, but his body remained motionless. In the next second, Milo's wrist snapped forward. The syringe filled with the virus plunged viciously into Lenny's arm. A freezing cold sensation spread instantly from his arm to his entire body. Lenny's pupils shrank to pinpoints, his mind blank with despair. It's over. It's really following the torture script I wrote. Before Lenny could react, the scene shifted again. Now he was in a hospital isolation ward. The smell of disinfectant was choking. A transparent barrier separated him from the world. The stark white ceiling made him dizzy. Before he could even focus on the foretube at his wrist, a pain that seemed to seep into his bone marrow detonated. Pain. It was pure agony. It felt like millions of tiny needles were stabbing into every inch of his body, carrying a freezing cold that drilled into the cracks of his bones. Lenny convulsed, rolling off the bed and slamming onto the cold floor. He curled into a tight ball, shivering violently, emitting garbled, animalistic screams. Snot and tears smeared his face uncontrollably, but he didn't even have the strength to wipe them away. He could only let the agony gnaw at his body, one thought screaming in his brain, why did I write such torture for the main character? Through the haze, Lenny suddenly remembered the moment he wrote this scene. He had laughed maliciously, typing away. The more they suffer, the more viral it goes. Readers eat this stuff up. Later, when the story blew up, the comment section was flooded with curses. But he just sat back, legs crossed, eating spicy snacks, sneering at the comments. He had even pinned a snowflakes beware warning, feeling incredibly smug. Karma. This was absolute, instant karma. The pain finally receded like a tide. Lenny lay paralyzed on the floor, his hospital gown soaked in cold sweat, his breath trembling. Before he could catch his breath, the world spun again. When his vision cleared, he realized he could move. His throat loosened, he could speak. Survival instinct overrode everything. Lenny scrambled to the center of the empty room, kneeling and begging to the air. Stop! Stop torturing me! Let me go! But as soon as the plea left his mouth, his ingrained defiance bubbled up. He stiffened his neck and yelled, I didn't do anything wrong. Is it easy for us authors to make a living? I was just catering to the market. He got more agitated, standing up to point a finger at the empty air. If you want to blame someone, blame the readers who like rage bait. They love reading it, so I wrote it. They're the ones who are wrong, not me. The moment his voice dropped, the male voice from before spoke again, filled with deep regret. Is that so? Then I suppose I'll send you to the third world. Lenny wanted to argue more, but the scene shifted ruthlessly. In the trance between waking and dreaming, he seemed to hear the voice mocking him. You emotional fiction authors. On the surface, you write endings where suffering is rewarded and good triumphs over evil, full of positive energy. But in reality, you spend oceans of ink piling on cruel, grotesque abuse and humiliation. In the end, the protagonist either resists feebly or doesn't resist at all, just stumbling into a so-called bright future. Lenny instinctively wanted to object, but his throat was blocked again. The voice continued. The so-called emotional stories you write. Where's the soul? The abuse the protagonist suffers is just useless emotional hoarding. The ending is either living a crippled life alone or surviving under the protection of someone who cleans up the mess. The protagonist never truly grows. They just choose, turn around and leave, love no more. It's just self-deception. A blinding light erupted in front of Lenny. The outline of the third world was emerging. At this moment, the voice's final sentence echoed deeply in his mind. Just continue enjoying the malice within your own work. When you figure out where exactly you went wrong, we'll talk again. Goodbye. Tears surged uncontrollably. Lenny didn't even have the strength to lift his hand to wipe them. The plot of the third world had already initiated. Like a marionette, helpless and bound, he stepped into the new abyss. Story complete.